Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 48. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Samjhana Moon from Goddess Portraiture. Samjhana is a visionary photographic artist. Welcome, Samjhana.
Hi, Holly.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Good, good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your business?
So my background was I was born into a very large family in West London, and we never travelled much as a result, but I had friends from all over the world and a deep curiosity about other cultures from a very early age. I always loved the arts, and I've tried just about everything over the years. I started out as a gymnast for about 10 years as a young girl, which has really left me with that kind of can-do attitude and obviously great stamina too. So which really helps me in my work today. So. But as an artist, I've always been able to see the beauty in everything around me, and people are really no exception. I loved sketching portraits and fell in love with photography at college. Black and white studio portraiture really fascinated me. I just loved capturing the character and the essence of people, and found such gratification in the process of photography too. I'm an Aquarian, so I've got that very artistic side to me, but I've also got that I like gadgets and things like that too. You know, so I was always the last one pulled out the dark room. You know, when we were printing and things like that. I loved that the magic of the process of the chemicals and sort of seeing pictures appear in the dark room. It was wonderful. It's very practical to me. It's hugely influenced in my early years by the work of David Bailey and Anya Leibovitz as well. Really loved that really high contrast, black and white portraiture. But while I was at college at age 17, I walked the coast to coast across Britain, and that truly changed my life. It was one of those pinnacle turning points, really. And I just discovered this whole new love of the wilderness and sort of long distance walking. And that later took me all around the world. So, but I left college and took a technical job working for Nikon. A camera company, Nikon, and that really fed my photography hobby nicely. I could borrow all kinds of expensive kit whenever I wanted, cheap film, meeting lots of photographers. So it was really great being there, and it also provided the income for sort of travelling around the UK into the countryside and doing sort of all these long distance walks into the wilderness. So, but at the age of 25, I just enough was enough, and I just felt that the world had such great wildernesses to explore, and I was really drawn to South America. So I saved up as much money as I could, and I left England alone with money in the bank and just a real thirst for life and for exploration. I just always felt as a young woman, there was much more of me sort of lying dormant inside than I was actually showing to the world. I felt that kind of my current environment, the people, the places, the things around me were just, there was a limit to it. And I couldn't move past that until I took myself away from all of that expectation, away from the restraints of culture and also just, people around you.
And being in a new environment can completely just open yourself up to new things, but also teach you so much about yourself.
Exactly. And that's what I was feeling very, I always say it was the draw to leave the country. It really felt like somebody had a fish hook in my stomach and they were literally just reeling me in, it was like, come. I literally had to go. And that journey, that lasted over 6 years.
Wow.
I kept coming back to the UK. I just couldn't settle. I come back for a month too. I had to keep going. I didn't feel like I should be here. So it's a series of long trips and just amazing journeys in sort of multiple destinations around the world, which really opened my heart and transformed my whole understanding of life and just what it is to be a woman in the world today. Experiencing all those different cultures and just seeing all those different aspects of the feminine, and just that just helped me to explore that within myself, traveling solo as a woman. There's no one else to turn to, just kind of say, well, what do you think? What should we do? It's kind of all up to you.
Yeah, and it teaches you a great deal of responsibility as well. Personal responsibility and just got to get by.
Yeah, and just making decisions and just being confident about that. I mean, it really taught me a lot about my intuition as well, in the form that when I trusted it, it would often reward me with the most amazing things, even if it seemed like it was something that was really out there and not on my list of things to do or in the direction I was supposed to be going in. Whereas when I didn't trust it, I often found I get into strife. Yeah, so it taught me a lot about intuition as well.
That makes sense.
So, with regards to sort of the business journey, part of those 6 years living and working, I didn't travel completely I wish I had the money to travel for 6 years non-stop, but I didn't. I had to work in between as well. And my last role as an employee was in the corporate world as an events organizer and executive PA in a multi-million-dollar company. And that was based in Bermuda.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. Bit of a change from London. Bermuda, for those who don't know, it's one of the most isolated locations in the world. It's the same size as Heathrow Airport. So it's,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's only 60,000 population, and as I say, it's very isolated. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful island. It's paradise-like, and for 4 years it was my home, and it was a really, really valuable time for me being there, as well as loving the lifestyle, the beautiful beaches, and everything that came with. I travelled a lot with my work, and I learned so much about business practices from the big bosses. Working with the executive team really helped me to handle people's strengths and weaknesses, and how to work with them, and how to empower those relationships, and how to really get the best out of somebody. So that was a really important time. And, some of the events we would organise overseas, and I'd be, rubbing shoulders with millionaires and just wondering kind of, initially I was really not sure about how a working class girl from London was supposed to kind of relate. But within a couple of years, I was making them all laugh and just, really connecting with them. Even though I came from a very different background. So it's really good for me with regards to sort of people understanding. But see, most of my spare time in Bermuda was devoted to continuing my spiritual practices. And I was really, really lucky to have a core group of wonderful people around me to share this journey with. Eventually, all of the spiritual work I was doing became so powerful, and I just awakened so much that I was guided away from my current lifestyle with visions and signs that were just coming to me through different practices. I did a sweat lodge over there, amongst other practices. I was seeing a healer regularly as well for a tune-up, he'd call it. He'd give you these monthly tune-ups. You just go and talk to him for 10 minutes. He'd ask you a few questions about what's going on, and then he'd say, okay, I recommend this treatment for you. And he was multi-skilled, so it was amazing. It's an amazing time. So, but it was interesting because at first I was very slow to act on all of these visions and signs that were being given to me. I started to act on some of them impulsively, kind of started to learn Tai Chi as a result of seeing myself in a vision. I felt like I needed to leave the country. I was seeing the Himalayas were visiting me a lot in dreams, and I was seeing them, and I'd never been. So I was really feeling it was time to move again, after 4 years of being happy in my paradise-like lifestyle. Suddenly I was feeling uprooted. I was feeling like it was time, the next phase was coming. And but I didn't actually sort of make that move. I didn't hand in my notice. I didn't do any of that. And eventually my body actually forced me to. I started to get really sick.
Oh.
And, I was a fit, healthy, 30-something, and suddenly there was just all these things coming up with my body. Nothing really major, but just all these, all this disease, all of this kind of like I'd have a skin rash or something that came up, and then there'd be problems with my digestion, and I'd have like a chest infection, and just, it was just all these kind of ailments just popping up one after the other. And I went through a period of about 3 months where I just wasn't well. There was always something wrong with me. And the doctors just kept, they wanted to keep giving me antibiotics. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was just like, oh, this is just horrible. And then one day on the way to work, I literally collapsed. I couldn't breathe. I really thought I was having a heart attack. I've never felt such pain in my chest, in my heart, and I was dizzy. I couldn't breathe. It was horrible. It was absolutely terrifying. And I was taken to hospital, and it's all American healthcare over there, so it's really, really good. Really good quality healthcare. I was hooked up to an ECG all day. I had all the tests under the sun. All kinds of specialists come and see me, and of course, at the end of the day, they could find nothing wrong with me. Absolutely nothing wrong with me. But while I was lying there in the bed, one of my good spiritual friends was there, and every time the curtains were drawn, she was practicing Reiki on me, and and as I was lying there, I just had this epiphany. I just thought, it's the job. It's obviously the job this is the problem. This is why this is happening. My body is saying, "Time to go, sister." So it was quite clear it was the job, and so I handed in my notice. And literally within 48 hours, all my ailments went away, my energy came back, and I was feeling more vital and more alive than I had done in months. And so that was another one of those big turning points in life. These kind of realizations that you just, you can't deny and you can't look back on.
But it also goes along with the importance of being able to listen to those signs, because some people just kind of keep going down the doctor route and keep doing tests and things, and rather than listening to the intuition and what it might be saying.
Well, I was lying in the hospital bed that did it. 6 hours on my back, hooked up to machines and bleep, and just kind of, what's going on? So a nice download there. But and it's a story I've heard many times. I mean, I'm sure, you've probably met people that have, often our spiritual awakening does come with a jolt. Yeah. We are asked, we're given the signs, and if we don't take action, then we're forced to in some way. And that was just, that was my sign, really. I couldn't put on that mask anymore. I couldn't be that girl, taking care of the executives anymore.
So how did you get from being corporate girl to creating goddess portraits?
Well, when I left Bermuda, I decided I needed to come back to the truth of who I was, and I just, when I had that shake up, and I kind of, went back to my house, and I kind of, I opened my wardrobe, and I thought, I came here with one suitcase, and I now have like 35 pairs of shoes and goodness knows how many outfits. And I walked in the bathroom and I thought, oh, wow, I've got all these products and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I am being called to the Himalaya. I know another long distance trek is I know that's where I find my spirit. I know that's where I come back to the truth of who I am. And I just thought, all this stuff's got to go. None of this actually means anything. And so I just sold it, gave it away. I think gave it away to charity, all the clothes and everything, just got rid of it all. Came back with the one suitcase I left with. But I didn't come back to the UK. I literally had 3 weeks here, and I already had a plane ticket out to Nepal. And so I spent the next 10 months basically spending all the money that I had earned in that job in Bermuda, spent every single penny. I was traveling on a very modest budget, but I spent that money by kind of giving it to people along the way. Rather than sort of giving to charity, I just wanted to give to people who I met who needed things. And, that might have been helping people to pay for hospital tests so they could get well. It was also, up in the Himalayas, helping people to get, fresh running water, or building a shower block so they could get more people staying. So that was that's where the money that's what felt right to do with everything that I'd earned there. And that helped me to I don't know, it's just felt right. So traveled for 10 months for another whole story, which we obviously can't go into now, but just the whole 30-day trek around the mountains, which really brought me back to, the essence of who I am and what's important to me. And then the following 9 months in India, Sri Lanka, lots of wonderful stories, and some of them good, some of them bad, but all helped me to come back to who I was. And so I came back to the UK completely broke, and the recession hit.
Oh.
And I said, hey, Mum, I'm just thinking about, going my own way, not getting a job, working my artist, because that's the truth of who's inside of me. I am an artist and I want to fully embrace that. But as well as creating beautiful pictures, I want to help people to discover, more of the goddess living inside of them, just as I had done on my journey. I come back with all this wisdom and this kind of, and all this light and just feeling magical and feeling, just I never imagined I'd live in Bermuda and have the job I did. Everything's possible, right? So I asked myself 3 questions, and those 3 questions were: what did I most want to heal in the world? Mm-hmm. What activities made me feel the most joyful in life? And what talent, wisdom, and experience did I have to bring to this vision? Mm-hmm. So those were 3 very powerful questions, and answering them was actually quite easy. Having returned to the UK, what did I most want to heal in the world? Women's relationship with themselves and with each other, and with their feminine. I really, really felt that coming back here, I was absolutely appalled at the stuff I was reading in newspapers, magazines about young girls going on diets at the age of 5, and how much bulimia, anorexia, and all these eating disorders were massively on the rise, and young girls having plastic surgery, boob jobs, bum jobs, nose jobs as graduation presents, before they've even fully matured. And I was shaken up by this whole thing. I just thought this is just to me it's just insanity. I mean, why would we why would we go through these dramatic changes? Why could we not just accept ourselves the way we were and accept that we were different from everyone else? And so I really, really wanted to try and in some way heal that relationship. And I thought, well, where's the problem? And I thought, well, the problem's probably with the media, right? What do women see? Do they have an alternative, or do they just have one option? Mm-hmm. Is there there is this ideal of what it is to be beautiful, and at different ages there are different pressures for us as young women. Their idols are these pop stars, which are all selling sex, and
they're also heavily photoshopped.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there are a few singers now that are sort of standing up and say, well, this is me before I've been photoshopped. But, that doesn't often hit the news like unfortunately, like we would like it to. But yeah, exactly. I mean, they are heavily photoshopped, as you say, and it's not real. It's not a real lifestyle that any young girl can really live up to. And as we start to get older, they start selling us anti-aging products by the time we're in our mid-20s. Don't get old is the underlying message. Anti-aging, don't get old. Well, it's like, it's always, where are we supposed to be in this kind of perfect bubble that actually none of us can really shrink into this mold in the first place. Probably 99% of us in the world can't anyway. And it was I just felt, well, what's the alternative? There is no alternative. I mean, it'd be great if women, young women had different idols. We don't really celebrate gods and goddesses so much anymore. There isn't much of an alternative, pop stars and celebrities that have become idols. And there really isn't an alternative there. But also just in the media, are we ever actually exposed to real pictures of real women? And are we ever also exposed to, also wanting to dismantle a little bit about nudity and sexuality, that actually it's not just about putting it on display in a way that's kind of idolizing and kind of isolating us as sexual objects, but actually the human body as a vehicle, as a kind of, just as part of nature.
And I think so many women that are so unhappy with their photographs. Either they're afraid of the camera, or they just think that they don't photograph well, and they just shy away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason most people don't photograph well is because they're nervous about being photographed. And that nervousness, I mean, they say that it never lies, and it's absolutely true. It really does capture everything that's going on inside. It really, really does, which is, I say, looking in magazines, I look at all of these fashion mags, and I just think, well, most of these girls could be waxworks, because I don't see much emotion on their face. Yeah. Whether that's been wiped off in a Photoshop process, I don't know. But, I think it's quite rare for us to actually see, coming back to my first inspirations, people like David Bailey. I mean, if you're based in London right now, and I think his show is still on at the National Portrait Gallery, amazing display of lots of, amazing artists and idols and pop stars and everything. He really, really captures the essence of people. And that's beauty to me. But everybody is actually photogenic. I do believe that. It's just something, beauty really does shine from within. So it's really about just learning how to relax with the camera and just be yourself. And it does, it really does shine through. So yeah, but sorry, I think we've got sidetracked from.
That's fine. Tell us a little bit about the work you do, because you do both the goddess portraiture and also business portraits.
The business portraits kind of came after. I mean, what came first was the goddess portraits. As I said, come back to those three questions. That was the easy part, was answering those, and then it was the next few weeks, the direction, which would bring all this together, was into something tangible, was very organic. It began. I was being very present at the time and very aware of the signs around me. Again, still having that traveler's kind of mentality, and really listening to my inner voice and trusting the guidance. And things started happening so fast. Within 6 months, I created my first collection of goddess portraits and exhibited them as part of the photography festival in East London.
Ooh.
And that was 13 portraits of real women in stunning natural locations, sort of revealing that inner goddess. It was really about liberating women by offering them that alternative to beauty, and demonstrating that sort of deep connection with nature. And some of them were nudes, but the nude body, again, really looking part of nature, just like if you were to see a tiger in the grass. It didn't look any different from that to me. And the portraits made a big impact on the women I photographed. One woman, Julie, who's 43 at the time, and she came to me, she said, "I want to be a goddess because I don't think I'm going to be here for much longer."
Oh, wow.
And she then began to tell me about her bulimia, and she'd suffered her whole adult life with bulimia and had given up on all forms of treatment for a long time. And after her photo session, she started socialising again after 15 years in isolation and returned to treatment. And she literally tapped me on the shoulder and just said, "Samjhana, you saved my life." And I was like, what? Really just wow. Tears, of course, came streaming down my face. It was like, wow, what an amazing thing for somebody to have said about something that, obviously, I did want to change women's perspective. It's like, wow, that rocks. That's way beyond anything I could have imagined.
I wonder how many photographers get that kind of feedback.
I was like, woof, gosh. So given this whole new lease of life, and, I still see her now, and she's doing quite well now. She's been back in treatment, and so, it's great. And I always I often come back to Julie's story just to remind me of the power of this work. I mean, it doesn't have that impact on everybody, but it did for one of the women in the first show. So the exhibition was really well received, had my portfolio reviewed by a number of professionals in the industry, and the feedback was, again, incredibly positive. I was told over and over, this is a really strong portfolio, it's great technique, it's unique style, and a vision to change something in the world. You've got, they were saying, you've got everything you need right here to be a successful artist. And I'm like, receive. Okay. This is kind of just gone running away with itself. This is great, This is great. So, but I looked at the portraits and they were so very personal, They really captured the person's spirit. So for me, it didn't feel right to sell them as artworks because they were just so personal. So I decided to offer the service. Offer the Goddess Portraiture experience as a service, and I launched it the following spring in 2010. So, and it's really a day to celebrate yourself as a woman and all that you are and all that lies within you. The pictures often come as a surprise to women, and it's just so rare that we get to see ourselves in those joyful moments when we're feeling, connected to to something greater than ourselves, and we're feeling alive and we're feeling joyous and just for being. And so it's about creating these beautiful portraits. Again, as I say, they often just, they come as such a surprise to the people who are actually in them, and they're just like, wow, I never knew I could look that good, or wow, I just, I never knew. And like, they often say things like, wow, I want to say I look beautiful. Am I allowed to say that?
Oh.
And like you, I just melt. I'm like, yes, of course you can. That's why we're here, and that's just, to me, that is, there's really a moment more powerful in my life than a moment like that when somebody can actually say that about themselves. Because and this isn't about just being beautiful. It's not just about being on the surface. It's about getting past that idea that we're not,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can just get on with our lives and just be ourselves and not think about all this external stuff which has been made so important by our society, by our culture, by our media, by years and years and years, or however you want to label it, wherever your feelings of limitations come from. It's just about getting past them in order for you to just get on with your life and just say, yes, I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm unique in my own way, and yay, I'm proud of it, and I can just get on with my life and just enjoy being me.
I think one of the things that stands out to me when I look at your portfolio is that, especially when I look at images of women that I know who you photographed, you really capture their personality and their soul and their energy. The photos just feel like them, like how they feel in real life. And I think that I don't see that as much with, perhaps other photographers. You just really capture their energy.
Thank you. The reason the images are released, the ones I release, is because I feel that too. But it's really interesting how whoever I'm working with, I pick out my favorites and they pick out them too. It's a clear, it's there within those images, and it's undeniable. Most people would pick out the same pictures because they feel the spirit of the person. They can actually feel something more than what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And that came as a surprise to me at first. I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't go looking for it, It was an accidental, obviously, purpose, but it came through from just literally the first woman I photographed was a lady. I'd asked myself these few questions, and I was exploring portraiture a bit more again, and I remembered how much I loved it back in college. I spent years photographing landscapes and not photographing people. And then I remembered, I was in college, so many people said, wow, these pictures of me are just like, wow, they're the best I've seen of myself. And I've always had this gift of just capturing the best in people. But this one woman I met, she was working in a local photography shop. I was having a print made there. She liked the print. It was a travel picture of a Tibetan man in his home, and she just said, she was quite young, just 19, here on a working visa from New Zealand, and she just said, I really like to travel, could we go out and have some tea sometime? I said, yeah, sure. So anyway, I went back to meet her for tea, and I went back to meet her from work, and as I was waiting for her, she was finishing serving someone, this young man, and he said to her, before he left the shop, he said, can I just say, you've got the most amazing smile. He said, it's not a comment or anything, I just want to say, like, when you smile, it really, really lights me up. And it really, you really have a beautiful smile. And she just, lowered her eyes and kind of hid behind her hand and didn't know how to respond,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, at that moment, I looked at her and I said, Hannah, would you let me try and show you what he's saying? Because I see it too. I know what he's talking about. I can see what he's commenting on. Like, would you come out with me? Let me take some photos. Maybe we'll see if we can capture it and I can show it to you.
Mm.
And she said, yeah, okay. And so that was the start. She was the first. And the first time I took her out, it didn't quite work. Like, I went home. I knew I hadn't captured it when I was taking the photos. It's digital, you can see it. I hadn't felt it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, no, it didn't work that time. Can we try again? And the second time I took her out, I insisted on it being sort of, went out to a park. I insisted on it being just nature. And it was just one lovely tree. And I thought it was a nice tree. And she just kind of kicked off her flip-flops and climbed up the tree and plonked herself down. But she just looked fantastic, just the way she was. She's found her place in the tree, just like a cat would, And so I started taking pictures. And there was this one I took, and it just sent a shiver down my spine. I was like, whoa, like that. And I was like, oh, I looked at it, I was like, oh, got one. It's like catching a fairy almost. most.
Got the energy.
And so, and I said, and so Hannah's like, oh, show me. So I turned the camera around and I held it up to show her in the tree, and she literally almost fell off the branch. She couldn't believe her eyes. And that, in that moment, looking at her, seeing her, see herself, and acknowledge herself, and acknowledge her beauty, was just, I was like, I want to do more of this. You know, that just made my heart sing. So that's what I aim for with every woman I work with, is just for them to have that moment of self-recognition. And it's really, as I say, that light and that magic that's sort of in those images is something that, you know, a lot of women entrepreneurs have come to me and said, well, I need to capture my light and essence for my work, you know, because I'm working from a very authentic place. It's very much about me and what I have to offer. Can you help me to capture that essence? And that's where it all began. I mean, that was probably only, you know, 6 months or a year when the portfolio was released. And so it was just this sort of natural emergence of, you know, I mean, the demand was there. People were asking me. And so I started to do that. And it's a slightly different approach I take from the beginning. You know, it's a slightly different approach with business goddesses. It's just a slightly different line of questioning, because it's more about how you show up for other people. It's not about how you show up for yourself with that kind of work. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's just, you know, it's the same with being sort of an entrepreneur back in London. You know, I've been sort of, you know, in this environment since I got home, really. So it just seemed like a natural kind of progression, really. And it's also, I mean, I really enjoy this aspect because it's very much about community, because obviously there's lots of people out there helping people. I'm only attracting the kind of entrepreneurs who are, you know, life coaches and, you know, heart-centered, you know, people really, who are really trying to help other people in some way, in their own way. So for me, it's that kind of, just helping that whole community of people who are wanting to awaken and awaken others and help, you know, share the love. So for me, it's great. I get to meet some really interesting people.
Well, as you know, I work with people on social media, also women in heart-centered businesses, and I'm always talking about the importance of having social media photos that actually look like you, because so often I'll meet someone, I'll connect with them online, I'll keep seeing them on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and I get so used to their photograph on social media that I think that they look like that, and then I see them in real life and I realize they don't look like that at all. And there have been a couple of times where I actually haven't even recognized the person, and then I'll have to look at their name tag and be like, oh, that's you. So what would you say are your top tips for women who maybe they're not in London and they can't get their photographs done with you, but they want to get photographs that actually look like them and capture their soul? What would be your top tips for them if they were to go to a photographer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, it's a really important question. I mean, there's so many photographers out there, people posing as photographers, especially with digital, with digital.
It's so much easier now.
Well, yeah, exactly. And everyone's a photographer, right? Everyone can take a picture these days. Cameras do so much of the hard work for you, whereas when I started out, we had to do a lot of the thinking. Whereas nowadays the cameras do all the work for you. So, but there is a lot more to professional photography, and most people, especially people who have never worked with professional photographer before, are just like, oh my God, I didn't realize the difference it would make to work with somebody who is professional and somebody who knows what they're doing. So it and it is, as I say, it's a bit of a minefield. And so I think, and it's obviously, when you're spending your hard-earned cash, you want to make sure that you're directing it in the right place. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that it emerges as what you would wish for. So, so I think, looking for the right photographer, really get a recommendation if you can. Look at people within your, hopefully, if you're in, as I say, if you're in the entrepreneurial scene, then you've got lots of friends. Hopefully, you're out networking. You've got other people, and you've probably got mentors and people you look up to as well. Look at their photographs and find out who look at their photographs. Look at people that like you said, look at people and who have photographs who that you can feel them. You can see that. Find out who they worked with, because recommendations are really the best way to go. And as I say, choosing somebody that you like. So do your research. Look at the recent works of the photographer as well. Make sure they're still posting, regular new stuff. that haven't got sidetracked and lost their passion for it. And why do they like photography? Find that out. That's really important, because quite a few times I've been, perhaps I've been covering an event, and someone will come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm a photographer too." And I'd be like, "Oh, great, what's your thing? What makes you so passionate about it?" And quite a lot of the time they say, "The money."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I got it." Thanks for the conversation. See you later. It's so you got to be really careful about who you choose. And find out how long they've been a photographer as well. Who have they worked with? What's their background? Did they study photography? If they didn't study photography, they're self-taught. Who have they trained with? Who's their inspiration? All those kinds of things, because photography. You can learn yourself, but I think there's nothing. I think you at least need to be an assistant to a photographer or take some kind of course, really, if you want to really understand. Because there's so much. This photography is so in depth, really. It's lighting and how to make people look good, and posing, things like that. I tend to not overpose people, because again, it makes people feel like they're putting on an act.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help people. So I see where somebody's going, and then sort of coach them into something that I know is going to work on camera. Generally, it's the way I work. It's more organic, and it brings out the best in people, because they feel like they're being themselves and they're not being told to do something, because photography's come from quite a linear masculine place, where it's like, this is what works, this is how you stand, drop your chin, stick your chin out, look this way, tilt your head, hold that now, smile please. That's not going to capture your essence.
I know, and there's so many weird hands-on face poses that I just think, please do not do that. No.
Sometimes we do put our hands on our face, but if that happens naturally in conversation,
exactly,
then great.
Exactly.
But if it's really, and yes, there is, yes, of course, there are certain things that work on camera, but it's just, there's just a way to work with people, and I just think there's a much more feminine, organic way to work with people to help to, bring out who they are, because different postures work for different people. Yeah. And things like that. So just coming back again. So if you think you found a photographer, you should be able to get a complimentary phone call with them to ask them some questions and, about how they work. So I'd say some good questions would be, what level of service do they provide? By that, I mean, what's included in a package and the price? Are there any hidden costs? Because some photographers, I do hear horror stories about people being charged this, that, and the other, and then just things not being explained. So it's a good question to ask. Also, what is their process? Is there a pre-consultation to help you with styling? Do they help you to find locations, or are you expected to do that? What sort of guidance are they going to give you before the session so that you feel prepared? Because especially if you've not been photographed before, you won't know how to prepare for your session. Mm-hmm. So you need some guidelines on that, whether those are written or actually in consultation. I prefer consultation personally, because I think it's more personal, but again, it depends on the level of service that you're employing someone for. So also, how do you see the images afterwards? Is it online? Is it an in-person meetup? What's the turnaround? All those kinds of things are important to you, right? Mm-hmm. And then, are the pictures retouched? And if so, how much is it for each image? And what kind of licensing is included in that price? For a business person, you need to get a full license on your pictures, and that's a royalty-free license. Okay. That means you don't have to pay the photographer every time you use the picture.
I think that's something a lot of people don't think of.
Yes, exactly. It's really, really important, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? And so a royalty-free license basically gives you, rights to use the picture. You can't sell the picture. You can't make any profit from the picture, but you can use it to promote your services however you like. You can't actually, just to clarify, by law, you can't actually ever own a picture. The only person that can own it is the photographer, because they took it. It was their equipment. They set it all up. It belongs. Your images will always belong to the photographer. They will always hold the rights to it. They just license it to you. So get that royalty-free license included. I personally, it's the only license I offer, because I think, maybe if I was working with Kylie Minogue or something, I might ask for, I might change my mind. But, right now where I'm at, the kind of level of people I'm working with, it's what people need. It's what they want. And I just think it all just gets really complicated, and pricing just gets insane. I mean, you can pay literally thousands, to use a picture on your website and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you get that included.
Now, is that something you need to get in writing, or is that something that's just, it's okay to get as a verbal agreement?
If you get it as a verbal, it doesn't really have a leg to stand on in court, really. I mean, a photographer could come back to you and say, well, you use this image here, there, I didn't give you permission to do that. I mean, hopefully you're working with a photographer who's a nice person and wouldn't actually do that. Yeah. But I'd say, get it in writing.
Okay.
Get it in writing. Get their terms and conditions if you can. Even if it's just in an email, you have it in writing. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just there in writing. So it's important to get that covered. Yeah, it's definitely important. Because some people, again, just coming back to the retouching, some photographers won't retouch the images. Some do, some don't. Those that don't, at least hopefully they would at least tweak them for you. By tweaking them, at least look at the balance, contrast, the white balance, all those things. So you don't turn up looking like a lobster on your website, because they haven't got the white balance right, or you end up looking jaundiced because, again, they haven't got the white balance right. And I've seen that too many a times. Great photograph, not been finished properly. Really disappointing. If you're going to do a job, do it well, I think. And so I retouch all my pictures. I insist upon it. I don't release anything that's mediocre.
Okay, that's good.
So definitely find out about that. And if you don't like the pictures, then what happens?
Good question.
Maybe you're spending £300, £400, £500, £600, £700 on your pictures, on your photo session, depending on who you're hiring. What happens if you don't like them? Do you get your money back, or do you get to reshoot, or find that out as well. I think that's also really important. Personally, it's never happened to me. I have to say, I've never had anybody walk away and not want their pictures. It's never happened. But I do say to people, of course, if they didn't like them, then of course I shoot them again. Of course, I don't want unhappy clients. So, but yeah, as I say, if you hopefully that never happens. Hopefully, I think that's partly. It's not. I'm not saying, I'm not blowing my own trumpet saying, I'm a good photographer. I am, yes, but I choose who I work with, and if I feel somebody's actually not for me, then I just say, I'm sorry, I don't think this is actually going to work out for us. But generally that doesn't happen because where I represent myself, I'm only attracting the right kind of people. So I think it's just important that you have a good rapport with your photographer, and if you do, I'm sure it'll work out. Yeah.
One of the things that you said earlier is that one of the top reasons that people don't photograph well is because they're nervous, and of course that comes through in the photograph. How would you recommend that people relax and just flow during their photographic session?
Well, I'd say the day of your photo session, make sure you have nothing penciled in your diary at all. Make sure that it is a day just for you. Turn off your phone. The world is not going to end if you can. Obviously if you've got kids and things, maybe it's slightly different, but just try to completely immerse yourself in the experience. Give yourself everything you need to feel relaxed and prepare for your day. That's why, as I say, I think the pre-consultation, especially for the goddess sessions and half-day sessions, it's so important that you feel prepared, because that's going to make you feel relaxed, right? If you turn up feeling like you're not sure if you've got the right outfit, or if you've forgotten something, if you've got everything you need, it's a bit like going to school, it's like, do I have everything I need in order to be able to do this today? So I think preparation is really important, which is where obviously, good communication with your photographer, getting some guidelines at the very least, to make you feel more confident. That's really important. Different things need, for different people to relax. I say choose somebody you've got a good rapport with. Make sure you connect with the person. Make sure they make you feel relaxed. If they don't, find someone else. Because 90% of your relaxation, your feeling good, and your fantastic photos is down to your photographer. 90% of it is down to them. It's down to them to hold the space, so that you can just make you feel confident as well. I hear so many horror stories. God, honestly, I find it hard to believe some of the things people tell me about previous experiences they've had with photographers, where the photographer said, okay, so show me your best model's pose.
Because we all know what that is, don't we?
Right. And I'm like, no way. Photographers actually say that to people? I'm like, what are you kidding me? Like, how to make somebody feel completely inadequate in one sentence, just no, So, so I said, do your research, find out how they work. If you're nervous with the camera, ask them, are you good with nervous people? Because I'm not very good with the camera. I don't really like myself in photos. Can you deal with that? Can you handle that? Have you got some success stories with people, you know? And hopefully they'll have testimonials about that, you know, that will actually prove that they can do that. They can help people to overcome that shyness. Because, again, it's about holding space. It's about having the right personality and about the photographer being confident enough to get you past that. And sometimes it takes time. You know, but some people, they'll go straight past it in the first instance. It's amazing, just because they feel prepared. Like, they'll turn up and they'll be like, I'm like, you said you were shy with the camera. Like, I'm not seeing that at all. You know, like, this is amazing. You're doing great. You know, like, right from the start.
Well, because they're in the right mindset.
Yes, exactly. Preparation. Again, preparation. It's all about, you know, it's all about just having, being able to move past that. But I also use, with the goddess sessions, I use a flower essence, a buttercup essence, actually, which helps people to start to love themselves, their body, and everything, love their unique gifts. It's a flower essence you can actually take orally, which actually helps you to move into that space. And that's been really powerful using that. So there are things you can help that can help you in that way. So, but as I say, I think everyone is photogenic. Everyone is photogenic, really. Beauty, it does come from within you. So, and you know, when your spirit shines through, the world will so recognize your beauty. They will really, really, really listen. And I see it all the time. People post their photos on Facebook, and I warn them before they post them. I say, when you share these, do be prepared for a barrage of compliments, and like, be ready for it. Just know that it's going to happen, because it always does. And it's not, you know, yes, okay, it's a nice photo, I've taken it well, it's been posed nicely, it's, you know, lighting's good, or whatever. So it's not about that, it's about the person showing up, you know. Just go, wow, look at you, girl. You know, it's just such a joy to see. You know, you see people who've had, like, you know, maybe 5 to 10 likes on their profile photos go from that to over 100 in an hour.
Wow.
Just like, you know, it just goes crazy.
Well, and I think especially for solopreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses, it's so important to express yourself visually in a way that really expresses who you are, so that your ideal clients will be attracted to that.
Yes, exactly.
And not to something else that doesn't look like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it saves you so much time. The right people are phoning you.
Yeah.
You know, the right people are making the call because they see who you are and they connect with you. And so, the investment in the photography is so worth it, isn't it? If you get the right people picking up the phone, your clients find you because you posted a fantastic picture of yourself. Great, that was easy. Hey.
Yeah. and I think that's something a lot of people don't think about. A lot of people just don't think about the importance of that. And when you're marketing yourself online, your bio photos are so important, because that's probably the first thing that people see even before they read anything about you. It's, do I connect with this person? Do I like this person? Do they look like I want to learn, you know, like they're interesting and I want to learn more about them? Yeah,
exactly. And you know, that's where we spend our money, isn't it? With people we know, like, and trust.
Yep.
You know, it's just becoming, you know, it's true. You know, we've really got to like someone, you know, before we buy from them, and seeing someone in a photograph is, it's the, you know, it's building that trust, looking the person in the eye and being able to make that connection is so important.
Excellent. So, Samjhana, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Sorry, Holly, just a moment, darling. Sorry. Just recording. Sorry, Holly, just a sec.
That's fine.
Recording. Sorry, darling, I forgot. Sorry, it's just we changed the time, didn't we, of interview, and I forgot to tell my husband, and he's looking at me like, what's going on?
That's fine.
Sorry, I forgot to tell him an email. Send him an email to tell him. Sorry. Sorry. Question again, darling.
All right, starting fresh.
Yep.
So, Samjhana, do you have any women business mentors, or are there any women in business who inspire you?
Yeah, I mean, two women that have really helped me on my journey. One is Judy Rees. She has just 2 websites, I think. She has X-ray listening, but basically what she teaches is sort of clean language. And as I was saying, as an artist, I tend to be quite flowery and, you know, really kind of, you know, fluff things up and, you know, use too many words to get my point across. And what that can often do is just confuses people. Because there's just certain things you want them to know, and there's certain things they need to know, and there's certain things you need to answer with, you know, say clean language, like that really, really, really helped me, because what Judy helped me to do was she helped me to put a structure to my initial calls. So when somebody first phoned me, I had a structure and I had a pattern, and I would follow this exactly the way. Well, obviously it was organic, and the line of, but there were 5 stages to the call, and there were 5 key stages and 5 key questions I would ask somebody, and a certain pattern. And it was amazing how often, I worked with Judy Reese. I did a whole 10-week course with her, and she helped me in many ways. But this one call structure, basically, I was, the amount of people who would phone me up interested, and, they'd go away and they were left confused. They weren't sure about what to do next. And I was maybe converting maybe 1 in 5, something like that, if I was lucky. When I finished with Judy, it was 9 out of 10.
Wow.
It was rare that anybody put down the phone without actually committing to working with me. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And, it's not about selling something to somebody. I think there was a whole mind shift with this as well. It was just about, somebody's phoning me up because they're interested in working with me. So what's my job? My job is to listen, find out how I can help them, and just tell them how I think it could help them, and just to answer any questions they have, and just make the offer. This is it's almost like this is a creative exchange, right? That's what I do. I'm creative. I help to create things with people, and it's kind of like, this is how I work. This is what I need in order to be able to deliver what you're asking me to deliver for you. And that's, there's all kinds of things in that, in that sandbox, in that play pit, if you like. It's like, okay, this is how I play. This is how I make these lovely things. And this is what I need in order for us to do that. These are the commitments I need from you. And this is how it works. And that's not just about money. It's about everything. Yeah. It's about the whole questionnaire, so the whole process, the commitment to the whole process. Often people are so blown away by, I do these goddess consultations. The women are like, wow, that was really in depth. I had no idea so much planning went into it. And I said, well, that's what I need in order to create these magical portraits. I need to know this much about you. I need you to be open-hearted enough and to, and to give me all of that. So Julie Reese just really helped me to just get clarity on what it was I needed to get clear about in that first call, in order to get people to that stage where they could have these magical portraits that they really wanted. And wow, wasn't that great? I can give people what they're looking for. Yay! So Julie really helped me with that. And more recently, working with Jayne Lee Grace, after many years of sort of, running a business, as it were, although it doesn't feel like a business when I'm in the flow of it. The creative part is magical. There's all of this, there's probably 20-30% of what I do is creative. The rest of it is running the business. And to be fair, the business I can really kind of take over. Yeah. And Jayne's really helped me recently to just come back to and refocus on myself as an artist. And really keep myself in that place where I'm focused on who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah. So yeah, that's been tremendously powerful for me in this past year. It's just bringing me back to the essence of who I am.
I think that's so important, because so often, as you said, we get so caught up in running the business and marketing the business and getting new clients and networking and meeting new people, and it's like we forget what the core of our business actually is.
Yeah, I have a testimonial book. I've used it a lot of when I've exhibited as well, just having people make comments. People like haven't even worked with me, just having them make comments about what I'm doing. And obviously I have testimonials from my clients, and I keep that on my bookshelf. And if ever I feel like I'm just getting caught up in the business side, I just open the book, I sit down on the sofa, and I read it. And it just keeps bringing me back. It keeps bringing me back to why I'm doing what I'm doing, the difference it's making for people. There are things written in that book of people who saw me at Mind, Body, Spirit, just saying, keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing. Thank you so much for honouring, the feminine in this way, and, stuff like that. Just like, it's like, okay, all right, come on, people have just looked at a few pictures and have said things like this. I've got to keep doing what I'm doing, and but also clients as well, that have had these really deep transformational experiences, and so it's, I think it's really important to have that one thing that helps to keep you focused. It might be a photograph on your wall, it might be a book of testimonials like I have, and it's also a really good thing to look at as well if you're nervous about initial calls with people. I know a lot of people are quite uncomfortable with selling and things, but just to remember, these people are phoning you up, they're asking to talk to you because they want what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get in the way of that. For God's sake, don't get yourself in the way of helping somebody to achieve what they want to achieve. Wouldn't that be a shame? Really? Exactly.
So, Samjhana, where can people find you online if they want to learn more about you and your work?
So at the moment, I'm kind of fusing two websites, but if you go to samjhanamoon.com, which is SAMJHANA Moon, like sun and moon, MOON.com. You can enter both of my websites from that URL at the moment. You'll see the two logos there. The top one will take you through to my full portfolio, where you can look at all my travel work as well as all of my work with entrepreneurs and all my portraitures there. And then the Goddess Portraiture side, which is purely focused on that kind of transformational journey in nature, creating these beautiful artworks that can continue to inspire you. So I love the Goddess Portraiture. It's at the heart of what I do, creating beautiful prints, for people to hang on their walls in their homes to celebrate who they are. It's just, imagery is so powerful. And it can really take us places if we allow it to. It can really, like vision boards and all those things. That's how they can find me online. Also Twitter and Facebook as well, Samjhana Moon /Samjhana Moon, my full name. And also on Pinterest as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your amazing story and your fabulous tips, because I mean, as I said, I truly think that getting the right photography is so important for your online presence and for your business in general.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And thank you very, very much for having me on your podcast. It's been great to share the story. And for all women out there and men out there who are looking for photographers, I wish you the very best of luck in finding the right fit. It's really, really important you make that good connection with somebody.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP48 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.